So how's it going, my comic chat army? We're here today with James Aquilone, the creator of, you said the name. Is it Dead Jack?
Dead Jack?
Dead Jack. All right. So, what is Dead Jack about?
Dead Jack is a zombie detective, and he works and lives in a place called Pandemonium, which is like kind of like an alternate dimension based on New York City, but it's filled with all monsters and legendary creatures and mythical creatures. And he has a sidekick named Oswald, who's a shapeshifter, and then he hooks up with a half pixie, half witch named Zara Moonbeam, who I hope to have her own series coming out soon. And yeah, it's kind of a crazy story, and he's addicted to fairy dust, and he needs the fairy dust so he doesn't eat people.
I like it. It's original. That's very original.
Okay.
How long have you been in the comic game so far?
Well, Dead Jack's prose. It's not a comic. I've done my first comic is the Kolchak the Night Stalker anthology that I did a Kickstarter for earlier this year. So that's really my first comic. But after doing that, I do want to do a Dead Jack comic or a Zara Moonbeam comic. So there have been 3 Dead Jack novels, and I think now it's 4 short stories. So I would like to do a comic. So I'm thinking, like, I don't know if the 4th book will be a prose book, or I'll just do a graphic novel. I mean, comics are expensive, so that's a tough decision. And I can write it down free, you know?
I mean, it sounds like you got a pretty big audience behind you that like it. So if you could just find someone that could take the novel and turn it into a comic, everything's there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not, yeah. I mean, when I did the Kolchak the Night Stalker anthology, I worked with a lot of great artists. So, you know, if I do Dead Jack, I'd probably use one of them. And, you know, with the Kolchak book, I mean, the artwork's been amazing. So I wouldn't want to do it, like, cheaply. You could probably get an artist to do it for, like, $50 a page or $100 a page. But, you know, I wouldn't want to do it like that. So it would be like probably like $200 a page for like pencils and inks, and then another $50 for a colorist, and then probably like $20 for a letterer. So you're talking like close to $300 a page, right? So the 100-page graphic novel, you know, you're talking like $30,000, close to it. Well, that's not including covers, and then that's not even including printing the book, right? So I raised over $100,000 for the Kolchak the Night Stalker graphic novel, but most of that money is going into the production of that book. Most of it's going into paying the artists, the writers, and then printing the book. And we ended up selling over 2,000 books. So
wow,
just printing the books, it was going to be tens of thousands of dollars. And well, almost all of the writers ended up writing longer stories than they should have. So we were counting on the graphic novel being about 100 pages, and then we started saying, "Oh, it's going to be 120 pages plus." Now it's looking like it's going to be about over 170 pages. And then we have a deluxe version, which adds prose stories into it, and that's going to be over 200 pages.
Nice. Are you in bookstores? Like, can we go to Books A Million and pick your book up?
The classic Monsters Unleashed, you will be. Okay. That's the anthology of horror short stories I did. I did that Kickstarter last year. We raised $57,000. That was the highest funded horror anthology, prose anthology ever on Kickstarter. And I just got finished shipping out all those books to the backers, but it's going to come out to the public on July 12th. And that's going to be available in bookstores. So Dead Jack, you can get online. That I've self-published, but Classic Monsters Unleashed is coming out from Crystal Lake Publishing and Black Spot Books. So that's going to be in bookstores. So it's really the first time I'm going to be in bookstores, and it's going to have an audiobook from Blackstone Audio. So
Nice.
And an Italian translation too. So you'll be able to get it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the voiceover?
No, not I got a terrible. They're working on it now, so it's going to be. I think several narrators are going to do that.
Do you get to pick the narrator, or they just tell you, "Hey"?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't said anything. They usually Blackstone's pretty good. When actually Blackstone did the first Dead Jack audiobook.
Okay.
And I had no involvement in that. They just like put it out one day. they even made their own cover at one point, and I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" So they did an original cover. I ended up having them replace it with the actual cover from the books, but they just put it together. And they did a great job of it. People love the audiobooks. Actually, outsell the paper and ebooks of the book. The first book. The first audiobook almost has 1,000 ratings now on Audible.
Nice, congratulations!
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. I mean, people are really into the audiobooks now. It's doing really well.
It's the age we're in. It's easier to listen to a book at work or while you're taking a drive than it is, I guess, to find time to sit down and read it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people work out to it. They're like a lot of truck drivers I know are into audiobooks, and I know a lot of truck drivers actually even write zombie books. It's like a
really,
and yeah. I was in a zombie writing group, and it's like a lot of them are truck drivers. So they love reading. They love listening to audiobooks, but then they maybe because they listen to a lot of audiobooks, then got into writing, and a lot of them do write like post-apocalyptic stuff. There's a writer named David Simpson, and he writes a series of books called Zombie Road, and he's a truck driver, or he was a truck driver. I think he did so well. He's not driving trucks now, and he's writing full time. And Zombie Road does really well. He has
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, check that out. So yeah, that's a whole thing that I a few years ago I learned that truck drive. That's a big I guess sub genre of so his books incorporate zombies and like these crazy cars and stuff. So it's kind of like Mad Max. They have like these cars that are like equipped for the zombie apocalypse.
Nice. Have you ever thought about doing a crossover? Like Dead Jack appears in someone else's book, or
that'd be cool. I mean, yeah, I would love to do stuff like that. I was thinking of doing something where I would maybe do an anthology and have all the writers write like Dead Jack short stories, something like that.
Are you taking submissions? Like if the viewers have a story?
I have to figure out how I could do that. But I mean, yeah, because then the writers would then have to know the world. But I think it's a really big world, so there's a lot of stories that could be told. So I think that might be cool to see if if they're interested. That would be cool if I can get other writers to do the Dead Jack short stories. So maybe one day I do that.
Do you have a email address, or where can they get a hold of you to discuss this off the interview?
You go to I started my own publishing company called Monstrous Books, and you can go to monstrousbooks.com. I think my social media accounts are there, and I'm James Aquilone on the most social media, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
So since you have your own publishing company, are you taking submissions for any comics or novels?
Yeah, right now we are we're publishing one short story a month on the website and through our newsletter. So we're taking submissions on a regular basis there. I have a Kickstarter coming out. It'll probably launch next month. That's Shakespeare Unleashed. That's the follow-up to Classic Monsters Unleashed. So that's short stories based on Shakespeare's plays, so horror stories based on Shakespeare's plays. So then when that Kickstarter is over, we're going to take submissions for short stories for Shakespeare Unleashed, and we're doing horror sonnets too. So that I think is opening. We'll open submissions July. I think July 22nd. So if you go to monstersbooks.com, you can go to submissions tab, and there's all the details there.
Okay, we could sign up for your newsletter there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you draw inspiration?
Well, I mean, for me, it started with comic books when I was a little kid. That was the first stuff I read. Was probably like 5. I was just obsessed with comic books. That's all I read for a really long time. It started with Batman, because I was a big fan of like the Batman, the old TV series, like the Adam West TV series. And then I was a kid, Superman, the movie came out, and then I threw all my Batman stuff away, and I was like, you big Superman fan. But then when I got older, it was like all about Spider-Man, because I related much more to Peter Parker than I did to Clark Kent or Bruce Wayne. So that was really like the first, and I come from that generation of the '70s. Like I said, it was Star Wars in 1977, and then it was Superman the movie in 1978, and then 1980 it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. But really, the movie that probably influenced me the most is probably the Flash Gordon movie from 1980.
Okay.
That movie I've probably seen more than any other movie. Every time it was ever on TV, and they used to play it on TV a lot, I always sat down and watched it. So I think that movie, like that. Maybe because of the Queen music, but that like Highlander and stuff. That was just that was like my stuff.
Are you a family man? Like, do you have a wife and kids and everything?
I have a wife and 2 cats.
All right. Okay. Have you wrote her into your stories anywhere, or wrote yourself?
She thinks yeah. Well, the Zara Moonbeam, she always says, "Oh, that's me," because Zara Moonbeam is this half pixie, half witch, and she's covered in like tattoos, but they're magical tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife has a lot of tattoos too, and they're both redheaded, so maybe.
Nice.
I mean, basically, I think everything I write, it's like all those characters are pretty much me. And a lot of my wife and people, you don't always want to say like, yeah, this character is based on, my uncle or my aunt or somebody like that, because like, what? Yeah. So you don't want to give that away, but yeah, I mean, it's always a lot of it. I mean, it's kind of funny because, Dead Jack's a zombie, and it seems like a silly book, and it is silly, but a lot of it is based on me and my life and my beliefs and stuff. So even when you have like a silly zombie detective book, it still does relate a lot to your life. I mean, and I love putting inside jokes and stuff that no one will ever realize, but there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, if you knew me, then you go, oh, okay, I remember you saying that, or this happening to you. So yeah, I mean, it's for my own entertainment. That was mostly what the Dead Jack books were for. I really did not think they would be successful. I didn't think. I mean, I thought it was just kind of a bizarre idea, and it was really just done for my own entertainment. And then I just put it out there, and so like, well, all right, if people want to read it, but I didn't. I never thought it would be as successful as it has been.
Do you write, or are you a novelist full time, or do you have a day job?
I have a day job, which strangely enough, my day job is also as an editor and writer, but not fiction. I work in broadcast journalism.
Really?
So yeah, for the last 20 years or more, yeah, I've been doing that. Well, I graduated college with a journalism degree, so I thought that would be a good day job to have. And still be able to write and edit and even because I'm usually pretty lazy, and I figured that like after I graduate college, I probably wouldn't have just like sat down and started writing novel after novel, which I didn't. But I still be able to like hone my craft, writing and editing by being forced to make a living. And yeah, I didn't really start writing fiction seriously until I was in my late 30s. So I kind of like about 20 years after I was like, this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't really like buckle down and start doing it for about 20 years.
Okay. Do they have a Comic-Con for novelists or a Comic-Con type show?
Yeah, they're author well, like with their StokerCon, which is the convention for the Horror Writers Association, which just happened about 2 weekends ago, and that's made I mean they do give an award out for graphic novels in StokerCon, but it's mostly for prose writers. And then there are a couple of conventions. I think one's called AuthorCon, that are just for mainly for prose writers. But I mean, they're not as big as the comic conventions. I just went to a little con that they were having at a local high school in Staten Island. I was probably the only prose writer there, but I sold a bunch of books. So and I might go to New York Comic Con this October. Every now you'll see some prose writers there at like Comic Con, in San Diego or in New York. I think it's easy to sell comic books though, so hopefully I'll have my Cold Check comic books printed by October.
All right. And do you send out something in your newsletter to tell people where you're going to be?
Yeah. So that's the Monstrous Books. I did have another newsletter, but I think I'm going to combine them because the Monstrous newsletter is doing much better. We have a few hundred people there, and they're pretty responsive. So yeah, if you go to like monstrousbooks.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get a lot of news. I publish that monthly, and the newsletter will have the short story that we published that people can now submit to. And like I said, if you go to submissions on monstrousbooks.com, you get the guidelines, and we pay pro rate too. So if you do get a short story accepted, then you can join like the Horror Writers Association as like an affiliate member.
So without saying a price, we don't want to know a price. Do you get paid by like the word or like the page, or how does it?
Yeah.
How do you get paid?
Well, when it's prose, you get paid per word. Especially with a short story. With comics, you get paid per page. So for horror, it's different. The pro rate is different for horror writers than it is for science fiction writers. I think for horror writers, I mean, at least that's what the Horror Writers Association considers a pro rate is 5 cents a word. I think this, with the Science Fiction Writers Association, the SFWA, I think they consider pro 6 cents or maybe even 8 cents. So, like, if you want to get into that, like the SFWA, you have to sell like 3 short stories at a pro rate, and to get into the HWA, you have to sell 3 short stories at a pro rate. But I think they have to also be like of a certain length. Or if you sell a novel and you have to get like I think it's $3,000 advance, which nowadays is pretty tough because most small publishers don't give you an advance.
That'll all go in gas money.
Yeah.
Right. What advice would you give to new writers that want to start writing?
Well, I would say write. I mean, don't do what I did. We're like wait 20 years to start writing. Yeah, because I would have been way ahead of the game had I like really just buckled down right after college or even during college. I mean, if you're like young and you pretty much know like this is what I want to do, then that's the best thing to do is just to really like tackle that and like work your butt off when you're young. And you'll be way ahead then, because a lot of writers that I know like really don't get started until they're older. They usually have they have their regular job, and then they usually get like kind of frustrated with it, and then they're usually in their 30s, and they can say, all right, I want to make a go of it, But if you're starting out in your teens or your early 20s and you really go for it, it takes They say it usually takes like 10 years for when you start. I mean, if you start and you're consistent, you keep doing it, it'll take you about 10 years to be successful at it. And weirdly enough, it took me exactly 10 years from when I started submitting short stories till I started seeing like things start to take off.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk to me today. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, that was. I think that's it. And this is I like that. Nice and short and sweet interview.
Yep.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comic Chat Authority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.